has anybody noticed that in the last, 20 years, the rise of social media? Now, back in the 90s, social media was only just starting. Now, I can't remember the very first concept of social media. I can't remember what it was called. But I do remember that my generation was the very first ones to have any kind of social media. And it was purely messaging each other. We messaged each other back and forth, back and forth. And, that was what social media was. It was purely nothing more than a messaging via the internet. And it was awesome. It was amazing. And when that came out, our entire lives changed. We could message each other wherever we are in the world. We could sit there and we could message each other on the internet. But it took 3 hours for the internet to fucking set up in the first place, and we did. And when it did, we were only allowed on it for God knows how long because it set up. Because when we were on the internet, we couldn't call each other. Because it was either be on the internet or actually have an active phone line, because we couldn't have both at the same time. Because But so. Being teenagers, parents had rules where we could only be on the internet for a certain long time because otherwise didn't have a phone line. So, but we got told that they started doing this whole internet safety talks. And don't believe everything you see on the internet, and be very wary of who you're talking to. Make sure you understand and know who it is you're talking to, and do not talk to strangers on the internet because you never know who it might be. And remember not to believe everything you hear and see on the internet. Now, they all started around that time. That's the kind of things that started around the time that social media came in. And the social media that first came in was nothing more than a messaging service, back and forth, which was fine, with the odd bit of news coming in of, Now, we all know that since then it's all moved forward to now we've got Facebook and TikTok and, Snapchats and all, it's really sort of, where we are now, But have you not noticed we've gone from trying to be really careful of how we use the internet and how we use social media and who we speak to on social media, who we add to our profiles, who we acknowledge as our friends on our profiles, to we can add whoever we want, we can be friends with whoever we want, we can acknowledge whoever we want, and we can talk to whoever we want with no consequences. And it's also gone to this point where people have forgotten common sense, even in schools, even in primary schools, my son was taught the basics of internet safety. He got taught it in pretty much every year of primary school as well. And then in secondary school, yet again, he was taught internet safety in pretty much every year of primary school. He got annoyed with the internet safety talks at school. He was so annoyed with the internet safety talks at school. They annoyed him because they were every year. And sometimes they were twice a year, just to annoy him. He believed that they had them twice a year sometimes just to annoy him because, he could possibly imagine that they were there just to re-establish the fact that there were rules of using the internet. And that some people, might have missed the beginning of a year or, and could have missed the first talk, for whatever reason. He insisted that they were there just to annoy him, but he is autistic, so he took it all very, very personally. But yeah, so we all understand that the concept of internet safety and the fact that you shouldn't believe everything you hear, see and think on the internet. But what has amazed me over the years is that we do. We don't look up anything. We don't acknowledge that there are things on the internet that might be false. How many times over the years have you heard people turn around and say, "Oh, I saw this on Facebook, therefore it's not, but therefore it's real"? I have. How many times have you seen on Facebook, especially during the pandemic, I mean, especially during the pandemic. How many times during the pandemic did we hear, oh, I saw this on Facebook, therefore this will cure COVID. I saw this on Facebook, therefore COVID can't possibly be real because Facebook said so. This will cure COVID because Facebook said so. Oh, I saw this on TikTok and TikTok said this will cure COVID. Like the whole toilet thing. I mean, seriously. I mean, how many times, COVID really did bring that about, but how many times before COVID and since COVID have we heard the phrases TikTok said, or Facebook said, or I saw this on Instagram? Therefore, it must be real. It must be true. And this concept of not did I see it and therefore, oh, it looks interesting. Or that's fascinating, let me look it up. Or I saw this and have you heard this? What do you think? Or do you believe this? Or have you heard about this on such and such platform? Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Did you read? It's, I saw this. It must be real. It's real because it was on Facebook. It's real because it was on TikTok. It has to be real because it was on Facebook. It has to be true because it was on TikTok. It's not this concept of ifs or whens or hows. It's this concept of it must be. It's like common sense has disappeared. And you just sit there and you think, where are your brain cells? Have you my brain cells, they are disintegrating. I know they are. They're not what they used to be. My neurological condition, I know that my brain doesn't work that well anymore. My memory is disappearing. My brain doesn't function the way it used to. I forget things. I don't always remember words. My English language, it just disappears on me sometimes. My brain does not work the way it used to. So I know that my brain cells are diminished from what they were 10 years ago. Even what they were 5 years ago. They're not the same. My neurological condition means that my brain cells are not the same as they were even 5 years ago. It just isn't. And I have to work really hard to try and keep my brain from losing any kind of ability to think for itself sometimes. And it's hard work. The amount of times my brain goes completely blank and I can't think at all. You know, there's nothing there. There's no words. There's no memory. There's no nothing. And I just can't even speak. You know, it happens to me. But for people that don't have any issues, to actually sit there and believe that what happens on social media is so real that they can't distinguish between reality and social media. Now, I know that my channel is very much a lot of me ranting and raving and talking about stuff that's going on. And of course, I've got links where I've actually done like things on medical conditions that I've looked into. But if you actually look into any of the stuff on the medical conditions, you'll find that pretty much 96% of what I've talked about in that is real. And the rest of it, like this one, a lot of it is my kind of me ranting a bit. But you know it's me ranting because it's what I do. I rant. And this just gives me a platform to rant. But it's how I started the channel. I started the channel by ranting. You know, it helps me. It helps me to keep my brain from like overloading its sort of overloading a bit, just to sort of calm it down, because these things, they sit in my head and then I can't do anything else because that's the only thing in my head for a while. And doing this, it helps. But it's how my channel started in the first place. But for people who aren't like me, who actually believe that this kind of stuff is actually real, where they actually believe wholeheartedly that everything you see on Facebook has to be real, everything you see on TikTok has to be a reality, and you sit there and you go, oh my God, there is no hope for the future to believe that everything on social media is real. I mean, you lot can all disagree with me if you want, but it's really sad that we've gotten to 2024 and common sense, critical thinking, and critical thinking seems to be going completely out the window. I think it's just really, really sad. And I've got nieces and nephews growing up in this world, in a society where common sense and critical thinking are rapidly disappearing. And I'm really hoping that before they kind of get out there properly, I mean, one of my nieces has just turned 12, and before she kind of gets out into the world, some kind of common sense comes back into it, because otherwise I feel very, very sorry for the world that my nieces and nephews are growing up into. Anyway, I'm going to go, because I think I'm going around in circles a bit, and I'll see you all later.